There's probably no one I've ever met in my 14 years of working with athletes who literally goes to the extent that you have to research success, find the person that can help them, and rehearse it over and over again. And yet, as someone who's a collegiate pitcher, I mean, you still are like, there's something else out there, and something
100%.
triggered in you to go, I believe Chris is the person who can introduce me to a world that I see like this foggy like picture of, but I just don't
Totally.
understand it.
Totally.
And if not for him, I don't know that I'd even see that foggy picture.
Yeah.
First off, I was in the sand. You were about, I don't know, 15 yards away from me.
Yeah.
I was tossing
Yeah.
balls in the air.
Yeah.
And you were
50
having to
feet.
hit 'em,
Yeah. 15
right?
yards. Yeah.
And you were having to hit them out of the air. Well, how many of those did you get really close to? What percentage would you say?
70% of them.
Yeah, so think about that, right? And so if that were you pitching, you'd
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. If I'm throwing 70% strikes, those are my best days.
You love it.
Yeah.
Why did I even care to come out here and do baseball or soccer or football or whatever in the first place? I like playing games, right? Like I like playing games. That's why I do what I do. I love playing games. Well, at what point was it ever supposed to become something other than a game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was always meant to be a game. So like when you hear me talk about the game within the game, that's what I'm talking about. We're reducing our experience down to the game that we were trying to play in the first place.
Going back to the original.
Yeah. Last Thursday, when you and I played catch,
Uh-huh.
how far away were you from me when I started telling you where I was going to put the ball?
175 to 200 feet.
Okay. And what did I say? What did I say I was going to do?
You said you were just going to curve the ball in like this and land it right on my hip. And you just said how you're going to feel it. And you're like, I shouldn't be able to do this, with my background and, baseball. But I'm just going to feel it. I've thrown a ball before, and I know I can throw this in there like that. And you just did. And then I took that experience to a younger kid yesterday. And I've been playing catch with him for a while. And I'm thinking, well, if Chris, can, throw it in there with we're throwing every day together, you know what I mean? And then Chris is out here doing this once, maybe every 6 months,
Right.
just
Right.
peppering it in there.
Right.
It's like, all right, maybe let's change the lens a little bit and go through a different perspective.
I want you to
Elaborate on
define
it. Yeah.
what that means when you say that is the loosest focused I've ever had. First, it's important to understand the reason you're saying that is because I fatigued the bejesus out of you,
Yeah.
right? Made you play a psychological game with balls over there in the sand pit, right? And then we went to the actual mound. And on the mound, were you still feeling fatigued from what we just did over there?
Yeah, I definitely put in some work.
Right? And so on the mound, what you did was off the charts. You were, I don't know how many balls you threw, maybe 50?
Yeah.
Was it more than that? Less than that?
Less, probably less. Probably
45?
Like 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of those, how many of those were balls?
Maybe three. Maybe 3 or 4.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we played a very specific game requiring you to either hit the tee, meaning that ring that was around the tee, or hit the ball. Right? There were at least 2 instances, possibly 3, where you hit it the first time out.
Yeah.
When we were starting something new. The first time was you saying,
Fastball.
fastball inside, I'm gonna hit the ball off the tee right now. Second time was we moved the tee to the outside part of the plate, curveball, and you said, I'm gonna hit the ball off the tee right here.
Hitting the ball.
And you did it. And then right after that, it was to start the ball where the ball was on the tee and drop it to the ring in the middle of the tee, and you did that first time?
First try.
Okay. So the reason you're saying it's the loosest I've ever felt, right, is because you bred that result. So with that said, now talk about, like, what do you mean when you say it's the most focused but loose I've felt?
The loose focus is how I felt. The execution was a hyper focus.
Totally.
No doubt.
Totally.
That is that just whole nother level of hyper focus. There's no pressure on it. It's just
Who creates the pressure?
100% yourself. And this is the way I like to explain pressure, and this is the way I've come to understand it. I'll put 1,000 pounds of pressure on myself, right? That's the pressure that keeps me motivated to work hard, fulfill my greatness, basically. That's the kind of pressure I put on myself. But when I take the pressure of my family and throw it on there, that I'll say that's like 100, 200 pounds you throw on there. Then you take the pressure of your coaches and your teammates, that's like throwing another 200 pounds on there. And then soon enough, you're going to have like 2,000 pounds on you, and it's just going to crack you. So
Well, you're strong. Imagine what it does to the person who's not.
exactly. That extra weight of the external things will crush a man.
As related to your family, when you mentioned family pressure, whatever, even if that were true, do you control any of that?
No.
So that's what I mean. What you just said is what's so true is, I would then allow some exogenous force to infiltrate my experience when I control none of it.
Exactly.
So then why would I offer my experience to it?
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes back to what I've always said this. Really, what you just described as pressure is nothing more than expectation.
Yeah.
Okay? And so there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure, by definition, is something that if there's too much of it, something explodes or something happens, right?
Yeah.
The reality is, when you talk about our experience, when we learn to play a game that is on our terms,
Yeah.
then and only then can we create an expectation.
I gotta hit it though.
But we're playing this hyper-focused finite game so that we can create a greater what?
Margin for error.
Yeah. So you're not hitting that,
Yeah.
but if that were Tommy Costello on the mound, how good is Tommy Costello right now?
I'm dealing.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's our game. You can't lose sight of that.
For sure. Exactly.
Because then we're like, well, that expectation is realistic. It's not like I'm putting pressure on myself.
Mm-mm.
I've already demonstrated to myself that this is where I'm capable of going. So now that I understand that this is where I'm capable of going, then the next question becomes, well, do I really understand how it is that I got there? Well, when you work with me, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I'm
It's a whole
totally
different
understand. I'm
feeling.
learning how to understand how to get there. So then it's a matter of trusting yourself and trusting what you do in order to allow yourself to execute the expectations. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's where the trust component comes into play.
Exactly.
Because the reality is, when you're pitching over there,
Yeah.
I could have said that it's, Game 7 of the World Series, or it's, the first game of the league in Pinto baseball at age 8 and 9. Would you have been thinking about any of that in the game that you were just playing with the ball?
No way.
No.
And that's like what you allow me to do. You're like taking me to a different state through the vehicle of the game. So we're like using the tee and the ball to change my focus into like where it needs to go. And anyone could come out here and set up a tee and say hit it off it, right? But the whole process of where we took the mindset to, and it's not the result, I mean, how many did I miss over there with the tennis balls? When we're doing the tennis balls and you're wearing me out before, I must have thrown over 50 and hit it off 3 times.
Right.
Whereas that struggle and that process, you take me over to where I'm comfortable on a mound, where I've gotten all my reps, and first try, hit the ball. And that's the process, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's what you're coaching me up on, where it's not about, and all the work I've put in on my mechanics, I've grinded at it for so long, but this is just a whole new angle. And we're letting all that work be its work, and we're just shining it. You're just shining all that work and all that potential. You're just letting come out through this focus. I mean, I'm 21. I've done baseball since I was 4 years old. So I've been working hard at this for 11 years, right? Through everything I've learned and just trying to seek and learn. And now you're just coming at me with something that I haven't seen in 11 years. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you research or work so hard at something for 11 years and you're just getting introduced to something new? And it's like, through the work, you get to taste it. And, I'm at a lower point, not executing at the level I set the standard for myself in my season, and I give you a call. And you're so generous with your time. People can be generous with their money, but you can get more money. You can't get more time. And you're so generous with your time, which is even more than money. And I was so grateful for that in itself. But we spent 3 hours on the phone one night during that point in the season. And I'm just thinking, man, this can help me. And I know talking to you can help. And I'm just like, I'd love to experience this on the field with you. And to get out here and do this with you, it's like changed my whole perspective. And we've grown so much in 2 sessions.
Crazy. Think about the average person. Would the average person ever believe that in 2 sessions you could turn into what Tommy Costello has turned into in 2 sessions? Think about the world and like how they're used to training.
It's like if you think like you're a pitching coach, right? Say you're a pitching coach and you do this, right? There's no way you're going to take your client or whoever, the kid you're coaching, and expect him to hit a ball off a tee on command right away on the second session. And I just said I'm just going to let myself hit the ball right here. No matter, like, if I think this is a hittable pitch or not, I'm just going to hit this ball. First try.
That's it.
Boom, hit the ball.
Done.
That was like the most incredible experience. Not only just the execution, but just that feeling of just being so steady, that state I was in. It's like meditation.
That's what it is. That's why I've said it forever. If sports is done correctly and you are given the opportunity to discover who it is that you're meant to be, then it will become a spiritual experience, meaning emotional, because you feel such a serenity about what your experience can become and how you feel about that and how you are discovering what you can do when you get out of your own way. And each pitch you get to do that because it becomes the game within the game. Each pitch is its own game. So in that moment you feel the victory, the power of that victory. No longer is your game measured by, did I pitch 5 innings and did I give up a bunch of runs or did I not?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm living in these moments.
Yeah, these little victories.
Right? Like moment after moment after moment after moment. That's where I'm living. And so because I'm now willing to live in this moment, I'm willing to allow myself to feel the power of that moment. And so that's like food for the soul.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And so when I come off the mound, I almost can't even tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I have that kind of success and I let myself play the game on my terms, I can't even tell you what that does for how I feel about myself.
At the end of the day, it's like I was just executing the game within the game I was playing. Greatness happened today. We hit the tee. Next pitch, I hit the tee again. I just loved that. That was incredible because I haven't experienced, you haven't experienced that on a consistent basis. That's why I'm so excited about what we're doing. Because I know this is what I've been searching for, this consistency of greatness.
Because no one knows that when we sat down last week, that you're like, I feel like I'm not feeling I don't have my curve and I can't find it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm just feeling myself like I'm trying to recall my mechanics. And the second you said that, I'm like, that's the problem right there.
Exactly.
Because the second you recall the mechanics, then everything that you're doing to try to find the success that you want becomes mechanical.
But I love that too, because like the way you phrased the questions when we were talking that day set me up to tell you exactly what I needed to tell you. You helped me stay in that place. Like you asked me the right questions to tell you about basically when you're not on your game, like what's going on, what's the feeling. And I got to tell you, you know what I mean? Because then, that's where the problem lies. Tell me about your great games. You know what I mean? Like, we can learn stuff from our great games, but we can learn a lot from when we're failing. And that was beautiful the way you phrased those questions that day at lunch, because we really tapped into where I need to grow the most.
Most people have never gone through a consultation, so they have no idea the power of a consultation and what that does, just to talk through where you are and then define what's happening, like why you found where you are.
Yeah.
and then understand how you are equipped to be able to create a completely different experience for yourself that you've never visualized because you never knew that you were empowered to do it. And so all the while we're talking, it's like someone's up in the sky and they're listening to us talk, and they're just like this amazing artist, right?
Yeah.
And they're just, creating like this picture of what it is that you can be as we're talking. And then when we're done, I'm telling you to look up, and you're like, holy smoke. Like, that looks exactly like the person who I want to be, and now I can see, like, I can actually become that person, right? Like, I can touch that person that's right there. And that's the power of sitting down and talking through. Because that in itself, even if we never had a chance to do that, could that in itself have given you a different vision of the experience that you could have had?
Yeah, totally.
And then allowed you to go out there and go like, you know what, I'm going to rehearse what he said.
Yeah.
Could that have done that?
For sure.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You totally, you can feel it. And it's just like, you learn it, and it's just the experience with you is just on a whole nother level as well.
I love sports. It was always truly an oasis for me until I got to the NFL. When I got to the NFL, then it became too much of a business. And the only reason that I continued to love the game in that environment was because my experience became this completely other challenge that was brutal psychologically. And so, although I wouldn't wish that experience on anybody, and although I wish that I hadn't had to go through that, it actually forced me to tap into the deepest of deep psychological capabilities that existed in me to go to a place in the direst of circumstances and yet still play like a superstar. And I loved that challenge, but emotionally it's taxing.
Yeah. And I think about, as you're speaking, I get so many thoughts in my head, and were you in the NFL 10 years?
9 attempts, 8 years. Yeah.
And like I think about, the workout you put me through, right? And that's taxing on the body, right? What was that, an hour we spent?
Yeah.
Taxing on the body. Now execute using your mind, right? That's the practice we went through today.
Yep.
And that's sports. Now say, I'm not going to be only taxing on your body. I'm going to be extremely taxing on your mind as well. And let's do it for 8 years. And let's see what you come out on the other side. Today, the results we got immediately, and there's still obviously room to grow because there's room to grow for everyone, but those results we got today, I'm executing, I'm beating anyone. And I just love that your mind was so sharpened, so polished, like just, and you can't get that from anyone. You know what I mean? Like we talked about it before, but sports psychologists or whatever, and nothing against them, but just they learned it. Like they had to put in the work, whatever. It took 8 years to get your doctorate, whatever. Like totally respect that, and that's a lot of work you got to put in. But that's reading it out of a book, Like for you to live the most ruthless industry in the world in the NFL for 8 years, always for some reason on the chopping block. Why? Like I'm sure so many times you looked up to God and you're like, why God? But it's for little moments like this. Like I don't know what Jerry Rice is doing, but no way he's pulling greatness out of people like the way you are right now. It's just amazing that you're just doing that work through the mechanism of sport. Just keen awareness, hyper focus, just through, you just live it, you know what I mean? And it's like your experience allows you to live it. And it's no one thing you say because, like I said, a sports psychologist could read it out of a book. You could write a book. You've written a book. And, I could read it and then I could go tell it to someone, but it's not as believable because it's coming from the man who's experienced it.
Right.
And it's just like, that's the key. Like, you've lived it and working with it, you can just feel it. to have that experience today, I walk away, man, dude, no one could touch me today. You know? Through talking to you, you really live the experience and you're like, this is what was happening.
Yeah, that's important. That's critical.
Understanding that, okay, this is why I felt so good.
Yeah. That's critical what you just said. It's not a coincidence.
No.
You created that.
100%.
Everyone has the ability to play that kind of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And they just don't understand that that type of a game exists. And so they struggle. We're here at baseball fields and we watch these kids attempt to catch, attempt to throw, attempt to field a grounder, attempt to hit a ball. And they're doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
And they're not having consistent success on any level. They're doing the best they can with the information that they've been given. But yet they want the success that you've tasted, and they want the success that I've tasted, because there's no one on this planet who doesn't want to feel accomplished like that.
Yeah, because that's the greatest feeling.
You know what I mean? And they only believe that they're as good as their natural gifts will allow them to be. That's what they believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not the truth. There's so much more there.
And they just don't. They won't ever know that
and that's
if
the
it's
worst
not
thing.
introduced.
It's like, we've had so many conversations, and never once has the focus been directly on baseball, and never has it been once on going away from baseball. It's just so beautiful because it's been somewhere just right in between of working on me. But we're just working on me and letting baseball happen, you know? And when I let baseball happen, that's when the big leagues will happen. That's when professional baseball will happen. That drive and that passion has led me to you because I know that this is where I need to go.
Yeah.
But you're teaching me how to let it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I know it. I've read the books, you know, I've done the psychology book. I've done the, you know, the video. I've listened to it. But now you're like, no, that's great that you know about all this stuff. But, like, let's actually put it into practice. Let's tire you out, man. Let's do some exercises we haven't done, or you haven't done.
Yes.
And let's make you feel a little pain in the body. And now let's try to execute the same type of game we were playing. And then let's go on to a field. Now that I think about it, when we're talking, there was a bunch of kids there, right?
Yeah.
Watching me.
Yeah.
No doubt they're watching me.
Yeah. The coach was watching. He made a comment.
The coach made a comment. Wow, that was impressive.
That was, right?
Not once did I think about those people watching me.
That's
Not
hyper-focus.
once.
That's hyper-focus right there.
I was so locked in that I didn't hear that coach really talking to you. I was just kind of standing there.
This is why it's so important for someone to have the ability to find the greatness that is theirs, because greatness and success is all relative. There's not a kid out here who cannot have relative success that's on the spectrum of what you're describing you felt on the mound.
Exactly.
That's not how they're taught, nor have they been exposed to someone who is equipped to give them access to a way to play their game that allows them to not play it as just an athlete.
The correct instruction.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everyone's playing it as an athlete.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an inadequate athlete,
You can't play
then
it
how can you have success playing that game?
against the better athlete.
Yeah,
than you.
you can't.
You can't.
You can't. They're trying to play the game as best as they can with the tools they've been given. The problem is the tools you've been given are 35% of why you'd ever find greatness. The 65% has nothing to do with the tools you've been given. It has everything to do with what you allow yourself to be in playing this different game and getting out of your comfort zone and address what inhibits you. If I'm batting and I'm scared to get hit by the pitch, but yet I'm telling you in the same sentence I want to be a great hitter,
Yeah. How can that
something's got to give.
happen? Yeah.
Do you want to hear people cheering because you just laced one on a line to right center field for a double? Like, do you want to know what it feels like to be standing on second base after you've done that?
It's so funny. I love that you say that because people, when you sit there, and if you told a kid that, he'd say, I'd love to hear people cheering.
100%.
No doubt about it, right? But when he learns what you're teaching, he'll end up on second base and not hear the cheers.
No, it'll be for him. You know what he'll feel is what you felt when you said, I didn't hear that guy talking.
Exactly.
That's what he's going to feel.
And that's the most beautiful part, because it doesn't become about anyone else but you.
That's it.
And that's where the most people struggle.
100%.
Everyone gets lost when it becomes for other people. I've done it that way. I've started doing it for other people, and it led me down a place where I knew I didn't need to be. I just love this hyper focus, because it's so much. It's all about the right things. It's awesome.
Tommy and Chris show coming at you next week.
There we go. You're the man.
Good job, baby.
That was fun.
That was awesome.
That was fun.